Good morning, Gidden. We are on Kufyud Bays, Omid Bays, 112b. About a quarter from the bottom of the page. The line begins with the word La'oid Haner, Havin Le'bonim Nichvin, and in the middle it's Tafresh. There's a small little dalet right after the Tafresh. So it's tough, like Tan Rabbanon, and then Hamashamish Mitasai. See it?
I'll take the Chidi Balayla.
I know, farther up.
Yeah, here. Shamesh.
Hamashamish Mitasai, Alamita Shatinuk Yashin Allah.
Yep.
Okay. You have it, Yeshua?
No.
Kufyu Bays, 112b.
112b, okay.
Yeah, that's A. Next page.
Top of the next page, yeah.
Yeah, and then about a quarter from the bottom of the page, the line begins with the word La'od HaNer, having Leibon and Mitzvin, and in the middle of Tafresh. You'll see us a little further up. Somewhere about there, yeah.
Tafresh. Look in the middle of the word. You should see it.
In the little line, it says Tafresh, and there's a small dalet after the Tafresh. Here, no problem. Here.
Thank you.
Toner Rabbanon, our sages taught. So we're on the subject of, the Gemara mentioned in some of its advice that a person shouldn't stand in front of a flame, in front of a candle while undressed. That causes, God forbid, epilepsy. The Gemara added, the same thing is true with, God forbid, parents who conceive a child, the act of conception in the presence of a flame causes that for the children, God forbid. So the Gemara now gives other related issues with intimacy related to children nearby. Tanur Rabbanan, our sages taught that I should qualify actually before we say this, that in the old day, not so long ago, but in the old day, everybody lived in the same room.
Really?
Families, how many bedrooms do you have in your big farmhouse?
Right.
Sure. How many people own the big farmhouse? You lived in a small little hut and people shared one bedroom.
Right.
And discretion was an important thing. The halach even discusses putting up barriers between you and your children, or barriers between you even and the neighbors. Sometimes two couples sharing one room because of whatever the circumstances are, with barriers. My grandma told me about this when they were in the DP camps coming out of Russia.
Right.
They were just like dividers between the families. They all sleeping in one big room.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was extraneous circumstances, that refugees running away from Soviet Russia, but nonetheless, this was a thing. So in that context, Hamashamish Mitase, one who engages in intimacy, Almita on a bed, Shatinik Yoshin Allah, where there's a child, a baby sleeping on it as well. So the baby sleeping, and parents are there too, and they engage intimately. Also, Tinuk, that child, Nichba, God forbid, could be afflicted with epilepsy. End quote from the Mishnaic text. I know it's now no longer the Mishnaic text, it was about to switch to Aramaic. Yeah, so that's the Mishnaic text. Comes the Aramaic commentary, the Gemara's commentary later.
And this means that this is no longer Rabbi speaking.
We stopped Rebbe speaking anyway.
Oh.
Right? We had Rebbe's 3 pieces of advice. Now the Gemara is going on tangents. So the Gemara raised another Mishnah, Tanur Rabbanan, our sages taught, right? Introducing a new Mishnaic text on a related subject. The subject of epilepsy being caused by intimacy. Right. So here, it's not for the...
Does it mean Baraita?
Baraita, Tosefta. Actually, I'm not familiar. There is a specific way of knowing when it says Tanan, Tan Rabbanan, and what the differences are.
I remember
but I'm not familiar enough with that, sorry. Yeah, there are rules about that as well. At any rate, so he talk about the child, but actually the child who's there on the bed, present, when parents are engaged intimately. Yeah?
Okay,
yeah, be clear.
Preconception or post-conception, you could have the same outcome.
So, but they're different things. Preconception is if there's a candle there.
Oh yeah, no.
After the child's born, irrelevant there's a candle or no candle, just the very fact that there's a child in the bed while the parents are intimate.
Right, I'm saying the outcome,
that caused epilepsy for the kid. Yeah, we're clear.
Outcome meaning epilepsy.
Yes, that's it. That's correct.
Yeah.
But different circumstances. Yeah, we're clear.
No, for sure.
And who's the speaking? It's like, what's the
Mishnaic text that it doesn't say an author.
Yeah.
There are ways of knowing. There are principles about knowing who's speaking, but I don't.
What's the term? There's someone like just like the first person, the third person is speaking in
the Tana. The Tana.
No, but there's like another word I'm thinking.
The Tana, whoever the Tana is, whoever the scholar is, the sage is.
Right.
Okay. V'lo yomran Now comes the Gemara and qualifies, this is not said, Ella only. So we qualify that this is only an issue, the loy have a bar shasa, if the child is under 1 year old. Child is above 1 year old, this issue is not there. There are other halachic issues depending on the age of the child and the child's awareness and so on about being intimate while a child is still in the bed. It's certainly not something that's recommended.
Kind of like what your father was saying during the halachas about it seems counterintuitive. Like the younger the child is, the more you have to be.
That's right. The younger the child is, the more
required, and it seems in this case as well.
That's a good point. Yeah, younger the child is, the more susceptible the child is, the more of a sponge the child is, and even though maybe not consciously, but certainly subconsciously absorbing a lot.
It's like sponge.
That's right.
Sponge.
That's right. So this is only an issue if the child's under 1. If the child is under 1, then it's susceptible to this issue. If the less than a 1 year old baby sleeping on a bed when the parents are intimate, this causes that issue. If the aval have a bar shasa, if the child's already 1 year old, less lanba, this concern is not there. There's no issue of intimacy. Furthermore, this is only said when, with me, yeah? The ganil lahadi kare, if the child is sleeping at the foot of the parents, while the parents are intimate. Avogani lahadi resha, but I'm keep on saying parents. It could be anybody, any male and female that are intimate. Sorry.
Yeah, that wouldn't be the normal case.
Yeah, adopt a child. I don't know.
Bringing the normal case.
Adopt a child. We're just using parents because that's the assumption of where the child will be, right?
Yeah.
Avogani lahadi resha, but if the child is laying at the head of the parents, less lamba, no concern. Because now there's a kind of barrier between the child and the actual intimacy.
Right.
And therefore, which leads to the next point, v'loy amran ella, this is only said when the loy manach yadeh aloy, if one of the adults don't cover the baby with one of their hands. Aval manach yadeh aloy, but if one puts their hand on the child's head, kind of creating a barrier between the baby and the intimacy, less lamba, there's no concern. Okay.
I'm very confused. What's being said right here?
We're qualifying when it's an issue. Again, the Mishnah made a statement that if there's a baby on the bed while there's intimacy, it's
Right.
negative effect on the baby.
Right.
When does it happen? Here are 3 conditions. A, the child is under 1. B, the child is at the head, not at the foot. C, there's no barrier between the child and the intimacy, including putting my hand on the child's head as a kind of barrier.
Right.
But if any of those 3 conditions are not met, there's no issue. So if there's a hand on the child's head, no problem. If the child's over 1 year old, no problem. If the child's at the head of the parents, not at the foot of the parents, also no problem.
Right.
That's it.
Be interesting though, because if the child is at the head of the bed and there's no problem, why would she have to put her?
If the child is at the feet.
She would have to have a long arm.
It's not not the bottom of your feet necessarily, but the child's at your hip.
Bottom, but
At the hip, or one's knees,
Okay.
a hand there, or he or she puts a hand there to create a barrier between their intimacy and the child, then it doesn't have that negative effect.
Yeah. Okay.
And discussion on intimacy as it relates to negative consequences for a child present.
So when there's no follow-up discussion on that, we don't make any assumptions as to that's those statements are taken as
They are in halacha.
true.
They are in halacha.
They are.
Yeah, it's in halacha. It's in that same section I mentioned last time, I believe.
Sometimes
Where
it'll say-
Reish Mem, where it discusses the laws of modesty and intimacy. It's there. And I'm going to add just something that perhaps when the child's over 1 year old, the adults themselves, if they're healthy, don't want to be intimate near a child at that age.
Right.
If the child's aware already, we kind of intuitively understand it's not healthy for the child to be present at such an engagement.
Right.
When a child's under 1, is when you might tell yourself, that child's a baby, it doesn't make a difference
That's
anyway.
the counterintuitiveness of it.
That's right.
That's
the halacha saying the child's very, very little, but it's susceptible and a sponge to all of its experiences.
Yeah.
Don't just discount the fact that, baby's 2 months old. What's the difference of sleeping on a bed? It's a big bed. It's a king-size bed. The baby's sleeping there, right?
Right.
No big deal. Says the halacha, no. And I think modern psychology would actually agree with this,
Yeah.
that a human's first exposure to sexuality has a very deep impact on the child.
Yeah.
And it's important that it be healthy and that there be a proper conversation with the parents beforehand, so the child's prepared and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And this is true. I think the Gemara is saying, even when the child's, in other words, I'm looking at this as an even.
Right.
Even the child's only 1 year old. Could be even a bigger issue when the child's not 1 year old.
Right.
The child's over one, doesn't have the epilepsy concern. The
Right.
child's less than 1 year old, even that has such a deep effect that
Right.
it can cause epilepsy.
I agree.
So long as if the child's not less than one, you put a barrier, so then the child's not exposed, it's good. I think that's the way maybe we can understand the Gemara in modern terms, maybe.
I
Yeah.
think there are a lot of examples in the Gemara where they point out the seemingly the counterintuitiveness
Yeah.
of things to
Yeah.
make people understand
Yeah,
what it really should
yeah.
be.
I have to be clear that this is my interpretation. Left the Gemara as is, as it says. But I'm taking what the Gemara says and being a little more interpretive, a little more liberal in my interpretation. I'm expounding. I just not that I'm not. You're wrong. I just have to make it clear that when we learn Gemara, we have to know what the difference between Gemara's words are and our suggestion. But I agree with you.
No,
I agree with that principle. That many times the Gemara wants to address the counterintuitive, the obvious. You know already. Now the Gemara wants to tell you what you think is no big deal. No, it is a big deal.
because it'll say in the Gemara, this is why it's been brought up, lest you think.
Hey.
Da, 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 da.
Exactly. The Gemara will do that. That's correct.
And
Good point.
Because lest you think is the normal sort of rational conclusion that most people would draw.
Would have drawn without the Gemara is
But-
telling you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very good. Very good.
But if the child is less than 1 year old, the child is less than 1 year old,
Yeah.
and they're vocal in their sex, making noises and everything, it might disturb a child very much.
Yeah. So absolutely, the Gemara doesn't talk about the noise
The
factor.
child is
but I
older,
agree with you.
they're used to it.
I agree with you that have an impact on the child as well. I agree, even though the Gemara doesn't discuss that here particularly, but I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I feel like that because an infant that's only a few months old can't speak,
Doesn't mean they're not absorbing.
it doesn't mean that there's no way of measuring what their consumption is. I think
There have been studies about children recognizing the voices that they've heard in the womb,
yes,
and that's
So-
an attachment to the father at birth
right.
because they recognize the voice,
So if that can be so, then
and certainly
yeah,
outside the womb.
halachas.
Certainly. Yep. So 100%. Okay. The Gemara, one of Rebbe's one of the instructions that Rebbe received, right? It wasn't Rebbe speaking. It was Rebbe's teacher speaking, first Rabbi Shmuel, then Rabbi Yossi. So one of the instructions Rabbi Yossi told Rebbe was, Al teshi teitze yechid b'layla. One should not walk around at night alone, right? For fear of interacting with negative spiritual energies. Sometimes translated as demons.
What's the word? Shana?
Shadim.
Shade?
Shade.
Yeah.
Shindalet.
Shade.
Okay, so
Also
now
one of Hashem's names.
that's with a yud at the end.
Oh, okay.
Shindalet yud, as we have on the mezuzah. Yeah,
I need to use.
that's right. The yud representing the divine spark. You reveal that, and everything becomes clear. Yeah, no longer concealment. You remove that. Now it's a shade. Now it's concealment. Okay. Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so now the Gemara is going to elaborate on this statement, not to walk around at night alone. And as I mentioned, there's going to be a backstory as to how Wednesday night and Friday night became a problem. Right? Because you look in the Shulchan Aruch that Wednesday night and Friday night are particularly a problem to walk around alone for fear of inviting negative spiritual energy.
Relax.
So here's the story. The Tanya, 2 stories actually. We can tell our children the story. It's a fun story. We learned in the Mishnaic text. Here's the Mishnaic text now. Lo yetze yechidi b'layla. One shouldn't walk around at night alone. Loy b'layla revius, not on the 4th night of the week. That would be that's actually Tuesday night, because the first night being Saturday night, and the second one being Sunday night, and that's Tuesday night. The Lola Belela Shabbosis, and not on the Shabbos nights, so Friday night, not Tuesday, not Friday. Why is that? Mipnei, because there's a specific negative spiritual energy, aka demon, known as Igras Bas Machlas. Miss Igras bas Magla, daughter of Machlas. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Agras bas Machlas.
Yeah.
How does it pronounce it there?
Agarat bat machalat.
There you go. Agras, all patach. Agras bas Maslach.
Yeah.
Machlas. Okay. So she, Ushmoina Esrei Riboy, and 18,000 shel Malachi Chabala of destructive angels, agents of destruction. Right? God has agents, and malachim, angels could also be translated as agents or emissaries, right? So God has agents of life and birth, and there's agents of destruction. It's part and parcel of life, part and parcel of existence is both building and destruction. So Agras bas Machlas and a cohort of 18,000 destructive agents, Yotzin, are roaming the streets. And each of these 18,000, Yesh later Shus has permission. He's granted divine permission, Lachabel, to engage in destruction. On their own. That's beyond just one, but each of these 18,000 have permission to destruct. End quote from the Mishnah text. Again, how do I know the Mishnah text ends here? Because the next word's Aramaic. Okay, so the Mishnah just said that on Tuesday night and on Friday night, these 18,000 led by Agras bas Machlas are running around capable of causing damage, and therefore don't walk around the street at night on Tuesday night and on Wednesday night and on Friday night. Sorry, Tuesday night and Friday night. So the Gemara comments and gives us the backstory. Mikara, to start with, have a shchichi kula yoima. They were available every day. So every night of the week, these 18,000 were roaming the streets, which means no one could ever walk around the night at all. So Zimna, alone. Zimna Chada, one time, Paga Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa. Actually, the Gemara says a kula yoma every day. It could be even daytime, not just nighttime.
Mm.
But anyway, these Agras bas Machlas bumped into Chanina ben Doisa. Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa is a scholar of the Mishnaic era, 2 or 3 generations before Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, and is a known spiritual person with great powers of prayer, beloved by God. Gemara says that there's a voice came up from heaven and said the whole entire world is worth it for my son Chanina ben Doisa, a man of great devotion, great prayer, and miracles. Gemara has all kinds of stories of miracles regarding him. Not so much halacha derived from Chanina ben Doisa, although I think he speaks in Pirkei Avos, but a man of real piety and spiritual attachment. So he meets Agras bas Machlas. Is that what I'm saying?
Ones who was consulted when there was a drought.
Yes. Wait.
I don't know.
You're thinking of Chania Magal? I think he also was. He was consulted for many prayer things.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So Amra Lei, she said to him, Agras bas Machlas tells Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa, the spiritual demon tells Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa.
It's a female.
It says bas, Agras bas Machlas, daughter of Machlat. So it's a female demon. So she tells Chanina ben Doisa, Ilav, were it not for the fact that in heaven they declare about you. This is what I hear in heaven. Quote, Hisaru b'Chanina, be wary of Rabbi Chanina v'Toirasai and his Torah. This is what you would hear in heaven. In other words, there was an instruction, don't touch Chanina and his Torah. Don't touch him. Be careful of Chanina. This is what she tells him. Had I not heard that, Sakanticha, I would have really put you in danger. But I've been warned, don't mess with you. I would have really given it to you. Yeah? So Omar Law, so he tells her, ooh, you just gave me my bargaining chip. If they take my opinion so seriously in heaven, and I'm so valuable in heaven, I impose upon you, instruct you, I decree upon you, you should never wander the streets of inhabited areas. She's like, well, you just gave away the secret. If in heaven they declare about me such words, and you are required to listen, well then, decree, you may not enter inhabited areas. Amrale, she said to him, I beg of you, Shavik li Ravcha Porta, give me something small, leave me something. I can't live this way. Shavikla, he allowed her Shabbos, Leila Shabbos, Friday nights, Leila Revius, and Tuesday nights.
Wow.
So that's it. He allowed her to go only
He
roam.
was smart to pick Friday, right?
So he
Friday night
presumably he
because
picked
it's
Friday night
very good.
because everybody's at home anyway.
No, but it's like Zugos, when it's
When it's a mitzvah, it's not
when
just.
it's Shabbos or
Yeah.
mitzvah.
So I'm assuming he took Friday night because everybody's at home anyway. And Wednesday night, I don't know, but it's not Thursday when you're preparing for Shabbos
Right.
and you're out maybe shopping for Shabbos.
Hump day.
Maybe something like that.
I don't know about the Tuesday night, but
Tuesday night, it's the middle of the week, so you're farthest away from Shabbos on both ends. Maybe that has something to do with it.
Is there any commentary?
I'm sure there are. I don't know. Not from Rashi Rashbam,
Oh, okay.
but I'm sure.
but also Shabbos we have an additional soul with us. Maybe that's another additional
Yes. Oh,
level of
so
protection.
Alan mentioned that yesterday about the angels that come with us on Friday night. So I said I would comment about that. So the angels that come with us Friday night are not really related to this. They're related to the timing of the day. And the Gemara tells us that the angels come home with us on Friday night, and when they see the home set, they bless us. Positive angels and negative angels, and Buddha associates it with time of day. But the bottom line is the Gemara tells us that the positive angels and negative angels accompany you home. If the home is set beautifully, the positive angels declare, "So shall it be next week," and the negative angels just have to answer, "Amen." And if they come home and the house is in disarray, the negative angels say, "So shall it be next week," and the positive ones are required to say, "Amen." So these aren't angels of destruction like this,
Oh no.
but they are just they're angels that actually accompany us wherever we go.
Mm.
They're like
So they're not alone.
like today we had in the Tanya about like the Yetzer Hara being a Jewish demon or not Jewish demon, it's something like that.
The person's not quote unquote alone.
What do you mean?
Well, these demons only hurt you.
Oh.
alone,
I
Right. So maybe.
don't know how that works. Can't answer that question.
All
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. Okay, the Gemara continues with another story. But now we're fast forwarding a couple of generations. Right, Rabbi Chanan ben Dosa mentioned this 2 or 3 generations before the Mishnah conclusion. And now the Gemara is going to fast forward to Abaye, who is about 3 or 4 generations into the Gemara's era. So we're fast forwarding a couple of decades for sure, maybe even a century, into Babylonia. From Israel to Babylonia. Chanan ben Dosa is in Israel, and we are now in Babylonia. And so it was one time, Pagabe Abaye. She, Igras Bas Machlas, bumped into Abaye. I assume on Tuesday night or Friday night.
Right.
Amrale, she said to him, Ilav de Machrizi Allah Berakia. Were it not for the fact that they would declare about you in the heaven. She does this again, she can't help herself. He's Haru Barachmani V'Tarasai. Be wary of Nachmani and his Torah. Not Abaye's nickname is Nachmani. I believe Abaye's nickname to begin with, but he was called Nachmani as a kind of last name actually, because I think he mentioned this before. Abaye was orphaned, and he was raised by his later teacher or his teacher Rabba, the great Rabba, and Rabba was called Rabba Bar Nachmani, Rabba son of Nachmani, and that became the family last name. So Abaye was called Nachmani.
Are there like descendants today?
Of this family is possible. I don't know.
Does it a lot about Nachmanides in that relation?
No, Nachmanides is because his name is Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman. His father was Nachman. Like Maimonides is son of Maimon,
Right.
and Schneer's son is son of Schneer.
Right.
Right. Baruchovich is son of Baruch. All right.
Okay.
Berkovich is son of Berker. Right.
Interesting.
It depends in which countries. In a lot of places, they identified you by your father's name, and then sometimes became stuck as the last name. So I imagine the same thing is true here with Rabba Bar Nachmani. So Abaye had the name Nachmani. Okay, so she tells Abaye, I heard about you in the heavens. They declared, be careful of Nachmani and his Torah. Were it not for that, Havasakantich, I would have put you in serious danger. She seems like she wants to. She's like giving it away again.
Delicious.
Like she didn't remember from Rabbi Chanan ben Dosa that if you tell him he's going to use it against you.
Not such a clever.
But she did it again. Okay, maybe she forgot the decades later. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think they forget that way. It's probably built into their system. In other words, angels don't have free choice,
Right.
right? Angels are just agents of God. They're tools of God.
Right,
So it's obviously built into the system of this agent to communicate such information to those people who are worthy of such communication. Okay? 'Cause it's almost the exact same words, or is it? Is it the exact same words? The only difference is actually, and the first one is the Machazron and the Machazri. So she tells Abaye, look, if it were not for the fact that I heard in heaven to be careful of you and your Torah, I would have put you in very serious danger. Amarle, Abaye says back to her, if I am so precious in heaven, and they take they to the point that they are protecting me from you, because I decree upon you, you should not walk in inhabited areas ever. Here, there's no negotiation. She doesn't say back to him, oh, please leave me something.
Oh, she doesn't.
Doesn't. It ends here. The first time the Chalim and says she begs him, please. And he says, okay, I'll give you 2 nights a week. Here, she says nothing.
There's nothing left.
But she doesn't, okay, he could have cut it down to 1 week, to one night. He could have cut it down to an hour, but no negotiation. I don't know why. I'm just putting it out there. I'm sure there's commentary on that.
Maybe because the Tuesday, Friday night was ineffective.
I don't know. Maybe.
Mendoza, he knew why he gave those days.
And she was like, oh, it's a waste of time anyway.
Exactly.
Maybe. Here's the interesting thing in the Gemara. So this is the end of the conversation with Abaye. But the Gemara, who's now, the scholars are sitting around the table and they're sharing all this stuff, right? So one person said the story of the Chaim Mendoza, and then someone else says, another time happened with Abaye, and now they're discussing as follows. Al-Kachazinon to Avra. But we see that they're actually present. These sages actually encountered Agas Bas Machlas. So they're saying, you're telling us a story that Abaye banished her from inhabited cities. But we saw her. Clearly, some of them have experienced negative results of engagement with her. So they're saying, what are you talking about? We've actually seen her. We know she's still around. We see she's working.
She's in inhabited areas.
Yeah, so what's going on? What do you mean you're telling me Abaye banished her? She didn't. She's here.
Maybe banished for the purposes of doing harm.
So let's see. The Gemara now says something. I'm just going to translate the words, but it's wild. Omri, so they said around this discussion in the Bet Medrash, they said, here's what's happening. Hani, those negative spiritual forces that we meet, even post Abaye's story, Gezaisa Ninu, the Shanti Sose, Va'asu Tibarilahu. These are
It's the place.
top of 113a. These are these negative spiritual energies, the cohort of Machlas Bas Agas Bas Machlas, they're roaming around not in the inhabited areas because Abaye banned them. So they're roaming around in the vineyards. This is what Rashi says it. They're roaming around in the fields. And they're on their horses. And sometimes their horses run away from them into the city. So they're going to retrieve their horses. And that's when you met them. You guys around the table who say that you've met these negative spiritual energies, even after Abaye banned them, you should know they have been banned. But if their horses run away from them, they are allowed to go retrieve them. So if their horses end up in the city, they run to the city to go retrieve them. That's when you meet them. Can't explain it. This is just what it says.
They only travel by horseback. See anyone on horseback?
I don't know that it means physical horses or what horses represent spiritual something clearly. And they're like, I don't know. I will tell you this. I'm just going to put this out there, what I know about what Chassidus says about horses and what it represents, and maybe what will help us. There's a mimer from the Mittler Rebbe. He cites to a verse about the nature of horses running. Can't remember what the context, what the pasuk was, but anyway, he said like this: that horses have this ability to take you very far, very fast. That's what horses represent. Yeah. So this represents, he says, doing physical mitzvahs, because doing physical mitzvahs gets you divine attachment very quickly, very fast. Meaning, if you didn't have physical mitzvah and you want to get divine attachment, you have to work really hard, climb the rungs of spiritual levels in the Garden of Eden to whatever levels till you finally get some sort of attachment to Hashem. And even then, you don't get to the essence of Hashem. You get to some ray of divine energy. You don't get to the essence. But with a horse, you get there very quickly. With a mitzvah, attachment to the very essence of Hashem, just like that. So I don't know how that might. I have to just take this. It's like, hello? You're coming in 20 minutes? Are you coming soon? Okay, thank you. I'll meet you there. Thank you. Sorry, someone's coming to install something in the house. I have to be there. Okay, so I don't know how this would help over here, but maybe somehow horses represent like quick engagement between the physical and the spiritual. And if that attachment to the physical runs to the inhabited areas, they run after it. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. But the way the Gemara speaks about it is in such a way that the people around the table would have known what they're talking about. Because people around the table say, oh yeah, we knew that story about Abaye, but we meet them. So what are you saying they're gone? We see them. And then they're like, oh no, they're just coming to chase their horses, they ran away. And everybody around the table just knew what they meant when they said that. Clearly, because the Gemara doesn't give any more commentary. So everybody around the table who discussed this knew, they're horses. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, the horses are running away. They come to get them. That's why they're hanging out in the city, because they're going to retrieve their horses that ran away. So this is the Gemara. Pretty wild story.
So the mitzvah.
Tell it to your children.
So mitzvahs have that ability to put you at the head of the line in order to connect.
That's right.
Hashem.
It's horses represent quick access from one realm to another. And in terms of our relationship with Hashem, that's mitzvahs. It connects us very quickly. But in terms of these negative spiritual energies, it could be the reverse. It's like quick access engagement with the physical world. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
They must have the same
Right.
counter
quick access.
Counter ability
That's
on
right.
the negative side.
To have quick access.
Quick
Exactly.
access.
And that somehow ends up specifically in places where in the cities. And that's when they go to retrieve that. So maybe if you're talking about the opposites, maybe it's not mitzvah, it's the opposite, it's sin.
Yeah.
So sins are only where people are. So if there's sins there, those are the horses that allow them to have physical access because of sin. So they're running to retrieve, right? Because they live off sin, so they have to go retrieve sin to get their sustenance. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
But the floor is open for interpretation. Because clearly all those who had this conversation back in Babylonia knew what they were talking about. Okay. Wonderful day, Yidden.
Yeah.
We have more advice coming from sages to other sages going down the line now. Because till now we've been talking about, it's been going chronologically, right? We started with Rabbi Akiva to his children, Rabbi Akiva to Rishon Bar Yochai, then that generation to Rabbi Yehuda, which is the next generation. And now we had Rabbi Yehuda to his children, and now we're going even lower down to the Gemara's era of sages giving other sages advice and instruction. A wonderful day, Yidden.
Good day. Thank you.